Okay. Family to pray for this week. We take turns praying for different families each week. Is Joanne Gustafson and Amy Ludwig. So remember the Gustafsons and Amy this week for prayer. This time we'll be offering Ron.
Father, we just thank you for how you bless us. And Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity to just give back to you, Lord. And we just pray, especially for Cam this morning, Lord, that Lord, that you would touch lives and give to Cam. Pray, Jesus, and amen.
Ready? What's that? Yeah. What did I miss? Thank you.
I just kind of skimmed over this scripture real quick here before I come and read it. I like to do that a little bit, see what it's about or whatever. Reminded me of a little story that kind of goes on to say in here that we can all maybe do a little better trying to, let people know about God and stuff like that or whatever, depending on, it doesn't matter who you are or whatever. And Kim and the girls were down in Las Vegas barrel racing there a couple weeks ago, and they called me and they said this kind of, well, it wasn't a strange thing, but it was an odd thing happened to them. They caught a ride with an Uber up to the Thomas and Mack Center or whatever they were kept their horses off, and they would catch an Ubers back and forth. And she said most of those Uber drivers, taxi drivers, they're new to America, people or whatever. And right away, I'm as guilty as anybody. I don't have not real great things to think about most of those people is because most of them are whatever. But so anyways, they get in these rides, the person hardly talks English and they're about to get out, and the guy says, hold on a second, you guys. He said, just wait. He said, I got something for you guys. And he reached down, and she said he picked this bag up and he pulled it up, and Kim said, I was getting kind of nervous. I didn't know what's in this bag, holy smokes. And he reached in and he had a whole bunch of little toy Jesuses, and they had a little note attached to it with John 3:16 on it, and he gave it to all the kids, and he said, here, you guys take some of these, he said. So, I mean, I guess you really can't judge a book by its cover and whatever, so it was kind of interesting. She said, of all the places in the middle of Las Vegas, an Uber driver. So, this kind of relates to this here a little bit, just goes to show that even small things like that can jog your thought process a little bit or whatever. So it's kind of neat, interesting little story. So and then they got back to the camp or whatever, and Nicholas was with them, and Nick said, well, he wanted one. He was trying to take Ruger's, and Ruger said, get lost, that's mine. He said, get your own. So it's kind of neat. But anyways, the scripture readings in Matthew 25, 31 to 40. It says here on a little side note, God will separate his obedient followers from pretenders and unbelievers. The real evidence of our belief is the way we act, the way to treat all persons we encounter as if they were Jesus himself is no easy task. What we do for others demonstrates what we really think about Jesus' words to us. Feed the hungry, give the homeless a place to stay, look after the sick. How will your actions separate you from the pretenders and unbelievers? Jesus used sheep and goats to picture the division between believers and unbelievers, Sheep and goats often grazed together, but were separated when it came time to shear the sheep. This parable also describes acts of mercy we all can do every day. These acts do not depend on wealth, ability, or intelligence. They are simple acts, freely given and freely received. We have no excuse really to neglect those who have deep needs, and we cannot hand over this responsibility to the church or government. Jesus demands our personal involvement in caring for others. There has been much discussion about the identity of the brothers and sisters of Christ. Some have said they are the Jews, others say they're all Christians. Still others say they are suffering people everywhere. Such a debate is much like the lawyer's earlier question to Jesus, who is my neighbor? The point of the parable is not who, but what. The importance of serving where service is needed. The focus of this parable is that we should love every person and serve anyone we can. Such love for others glorifies God by reflecting our love for Him. So starting chapter 25, verse 31, Jesus tells about the final judgment. But when the Son of Man comes in His glory and all the angels with Him, then He will sit upon His glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered into His presence, and He will separate the people as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will place the sheep at His right hand side and the goats at His left. Then the King will say to those on the right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry and you fed me, I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you came to see me. Then these righteous ones will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirst and gave you something to drink, or a stranger and show you hospitality, naked and you had no clothes? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and even come to visit you? And the King will say, I tell you the truth. When you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you are also doing it to me.
I think we're gonna just jump ahead one line to special music. And I think Luke is up first. Is anyone else have special?
Did you want it? sorry. I am so technically advanced until I need to use it. Then we'll see what happens. That story was awesome. But you know, does your mind ever go ahead of the story and then you're disappointed when it doesn't go where you went? I was like, he pulled out little Jesus, and I thought, I bet you they had those parachutes attached to their backs. But you didn't say that. I was so disappointed. Sorry, that was going to screw up.
Just a verse.
Pardon?
Just a verse.
Just for, well,
Just
that's,
John 3:16.
that's even better than the parachute, because we know Jesus doesn't need a parachute. I've got slides as I go through, because that way you can look at it. You don't always have to look at me. So if you want lights on or not, I don't know, I'd fall asleep with this, but that's awesome. If it helps you to see better,
Do you want one slide on?
Maybe one side.
it's up to you guys.
Well, you're the one that's reading, so you.
I can do it. My own eyes will do it. Okay, I get to do something that I only usually get to do at camp. So I'm very, very excited about this. I'm probably building up way more than I should. Inevitably, I get to do Lost and Found. Does this belong to anybody? Alcohol at the banquet. Oh, you guys did the kitchen. I thought it would be you. That's so disappointing. Somebody's missing it and hasn't claimed it yet. No, she did get hers back. Oh, don't let me do that here. I gotta take it. Okay. Is that clock right?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about the clock.
Don't worry about the clock.
Okay. I didn't bring up a timer with me, so I'm sorry. I like to pay attention. Just Barb waved at me when I should.
So you're good.
Okay. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like I'm 3 months behind in my brain of where I should be, so I'm trying to catch up to where I should be in terms of camp and just so many things going on, but I'm sure that sounds familiar to all of you. Life is just incredibly busy sometimes, and then we get those extra added things thrown in, which I love it because I just think the enemy wants to throw us off, and it's like, no, we're not. We're going to stay on track. So thank you, and I just appreciate you all so much. The church has such a long history of being involved in camp and helping camp, and I know your heart and your desire is for camp and to see kids come to know the Lord. And I feel like our time is urgent. I don't know if you get that feeling that we have an urgency to tell people about the Lord. And just when I look at things the way the world's going, sometimes I wonder how long will we have this opportunity in this form to just so freely confess Christ and share Him. And so I don't want a moment to go by that we can't grab. And I mean, I would love to just go, I was going to say start grabbing kids off the street, but that probably isn't a good idea. But you know, just to go and just go, come to camp, just come to camp. Forget the fees, forget everything, just come and hear about Jesus. And maybe we can do that one week. But I just feel that sense of urgency, and just to be faithful in camp, doing what God has called us to do, which is to share His love with the kids. And that can look like anything. And so what I've got for you today, I'm going to forewarn you, I feel like I'm giving you a grocery list, but I'm going to go through a few things just to update you on camp. And then what I wanted to do is, I've been listening to a leadership podcast by Craig Rochelle, and I really appreciate a lot that he says. And he interviews a lot of really high up people who run organizations and Christian ministries and things like that. So I just feel like it's been a good jolt for me, just in terms of, I know I'm never too old to learn. So I just appreciate some of the things. But one of the gentlemen just said his ministry didn't take off until he started to share people's stories. And, you know, I just thought, you know, stories are impactful. I'm getting ahead of myself, but they're impactful. So I want to end off, after I give you the updates, I want to end off on just sharing a few of the stories that I've reached out to some of our former camper and staff. And to me, they're the heart of camp, because we know that camp does change lives. Oh, good, I can even see that. So this is like the worst habit I could ever start to develop. So this was what started last spring. We got the foundations done for the girls' cabin in the spring last year. And I was more excited about the pumper truck than anything. I just thought that was phenomenal. The truck could stay way over there and they could drag the hose around. So I was out being quite enthralled and wishing I could gather a bunch of little kids to come and watch, thinking they would just be totally wowed by that. And then in the fall, they ended up finishing, the roof wasn't on, it wasn't tinned or anything. And so that was a little bit of a push later in the fall to get the roof tinned so that it would save on the OSB and protect it a little bit better. Thankfully, actually, when they went out, they said that there was very little snow in the building, which was crazy. There was no windows or doors, but thankfully it didn't get all wet in there as well. And then the guys, this is on the boys' side, Jay got Brett's skid steer and snowblower attachment and plowed his way in, actually probably almost 2 months ago. Plowed his way into camp. They got everything cleared, all the pathways to everything, and they got that much done. So it was just a flat surface. They had to shovel off about 4 feet of snow, and they built that, and then guess what happened? That storm came, blew the road back in, blew everything in, so they sat for quite a while waiting to get back in. But that was a pretty good progress for about a week, or I don't even know if it would have been 2 weeks. The boys even got sunburned while they were out there working. So, hard to believe when we see snow today. Then, I don't know, are the pictures big enough for you to see? So Endeavour Men, they usually do a men's prayer breakfast. And once a month, they do a big meal and a bunch of the community guys come. This year, Brett kind of took over for this month, and he wanted to get the guys out to camp. And if they would work, he thought that's great, but they could still have their time of fellowship. They ended up having a barbecue, not a breakfast, but they ended up working most of the day out at camp just yesterday. And they split firewood. They got a huge advancement on that boys' cabin, and the one new boys' cabin, old new boys' cabin, the floor had rotted out, and there was just lack of air movement underneath the floor. So they had to rip out all the bunk beds just got taken apart. They'll go back in, but the floor all had to be removed. Plus, so they ended up getting some of the floorboards back in, so that we can hopefully get the floor back in. And they guarantee me that we're going to use the 2 brand new cabins that are going up, as well as this one will be back in operation. So that's very exciting for us. And Brett thought that if I showed this, I said, send me some pictures so I can just let everybody know what's going on. And he says, that's great. Maybe other churches will want to do this too. Right, guys? Wouldn't that be awesome? Especially if Brett comes and cooks you, it looks like burgers and, I don't know, steak skewers or something. So, yeah, they ended up cutting up a ton of firewood, taking down trees that were hanging, that had fallen over the winter as well. So I think they had a really, really productive day. Also what the camp has done, and this is something new for us, we actually hired Ben Thiessen to come in and just get these projects done. We know that our volunteer base is just dwindling, and just with, everybody's so busy, and we can appreciate that. And so we just took on Ben, hired him to get these done. He's doing the things that is more of the building, construction, something like the floor. He said, we'll strip it, we'll clean it up, but then somebody else can go back in. He'll save his expertise for the other things. And hopefully we'll get maybe a shed or 2 built, a building that we can use as storage. We've got canteen storage that ends up in places that shouldn't. And yes, and so we just move and to get out the tables and chairs that we end up not using in a certain week, and then they just get stacked up at the back. So we're just trying to have a place for everything to just live and stay, and we know where things are instead of having to shuffle things around. So I'm excited to see what all will go on. I decided to stay away since it was a boys' day yesterday and let them just do their thing and be guys, whatever that means. There's a lot of other little smaller projects that we will be doing as well. Now, I actually didn't hand them out or anything, but I left them on the table. There's a little bulletin, no pictures, just reading. But it gives you a good list of prayer requests on the back, but also just some of the projects that we're doing, some things that you might be able to help with as we plan for the summer. If you just want to come out for one day, not on a work day, but you're available another day, those things are listed, and usually by then I'll be out there, and there'll be, once we get the water turned on, then we'll be able to have all those other projects done, whether it's just cleaning buildings, we've got some painting to go with. Here's the list, and whatever somebody gets excited about, we let them go for it. So that'll be coming up pretty soon, but I prefer to have water on before I ask people to come out and work. The boys figured they'd be okay yesterday. So the next thing that we always end up talking about is staffing needs. We always seem to be at this point, and we're still looking for staff, which is fine. I know the Lord's got them lined up, but they just haven't come our way yet. And we're still in need of nurses for squirt camp, basketball camp, and 24/7 camp. We really need a nurse, and so if you know anybody and they want us to come and have a wonderful beachfront nursing experience, then send them our way. And we're also in need of senior male and female cabin leaders, junior cabin leaders, for most of the camp. I know that some people who usually come haven't said they're coming. I've hounded them, and if I run into them, I'll tackle them and wrestle them to the ground, and I won't let them up until they tell me when they're coming. But I think they usually run when they see me coming. But sometimes it's just a little bit hard to get that final commitment out of them. So pray for our staff as we just try to gather up the amount of staff that we need so that we can run the camp effectively. And the hardest part was when last year we canceled a couple of camps because we didn't have enough staff. And that's just the hardest decision. That's the first time I think I've ever done that. Hard decision to make. But we also have our accreditation standards, the Saskatchewan Camps Association, and we must have a certain ratio of staff to campers, and we can't exceed that. So that does tie our hands, but it also keeps us where we give the kids the best supervision possible. Cooks, food, essential part of camp. And we're still looking for cooks for teen, intermediate, squirt, basketball, and 24/7. If you do the math, that's the majority of our camps. So the one nice thing is we did have a young lady who's assisted in the kitchen the last couple of years, Amy Johnson, has offered to help as much as we need. She has been in the kitchen as a bit of an assistant, but not ever as a head cook. And her health isn't always the best, so yet her heart is 100% willing, which I think is just incredible. So for us, as I try to fill in the spot, I would love to have Amy there, but I really don't want to overwhelm her. And teen, intermediate, and squirt all run back to back. And I thought even if I could get one in the middle for the intermediate camp and give Amy that break, that would be an amazing thing that we could do. So again, a huge need. Now I said to Amy, I do have people that have cooked a lot and would probably be willing to help once we can get the kitchen up and running, get the health inspector in, maybe have a work day, like a Friday, Saturday, and if people can come either one of those days, let's cook up a bunch of meals, whether it's, the spaghetti or something like that, and just have them in the roasters. And this is what our cook did last year. He went and did a bunch of meal prep. And so at least it would take maybe 2 or 3 of the evening meals off the plate where all of a sudden, here's your baked spaghetti, you need to worry about the garlic toast or something. Give them a little bit of freedom. And as we know that even, your church, I'm sure you guys have struggled sending workers sometimes if we say, oh, this is your week. You might be gone that week, and so you aren't in that rotation. And so just to try and work together in order to make things as easy as we can for each other. And so that's why I thought we could do this. And with I don't even think we've decided on a week yet for your church, but I was just talking and saying how we could easily, if somebody can't come the week that their church is designated for, then by all means, give me your name, and if we're in a pickle and we're having a super busy week, I can say, can you come in for a day this week? Which day? Tuesday. Okay, great. I'll let the cook know. And maybe just do that. And things are changing, and so I'm trying to adapt to the less volunteers and just to make it work. And I know our cooks put a tremendous amount of effort into being in the kitchen. And I look out and I see many of your faces in the kitchen over the years. So you know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of being on your feet and just on the go. In terms of the baking lists that we've often given out, the supply list, some of our churches are getting less and less, maybe just handing money and asking us to just buy the things. I still know that there's people that love to bake a pail of cookies and different things like that, or muffins. So my word to the churches this year is, if you would like to provide baking or some of that things that are generally on the list, whether it's pierogies, different things like that, we would be happy to say, bring them, and we will put them in the freezer, and they are going to get used in the summer. We don't have enough churches to supply all our weeks of camp. So last year we're not saying, oh, this is specifically for a certain week, unless you guys happen to be there, but just so that we have that abundance. They can pull out night snack and they're not worried about it. So I think, as I don't know if Barb are usually who I talk to, I don't remember. It's only been a year or two.
So
yeah.
We will not have a specific list then this year?
No, but I can give you one and you can use it as a typical guideline if you would like. I think our churches, like Pelly, she said to me, we're all over 90 years old. And I said, well, do people still want to bake? Well, yes. I said, well, how about we do this? Bake what you want and send it. Can you handle that? She says, absolutely. So I thought that worked really well. And we're not opposed to purchasing what we need. But for those that is their ministry, I do not want to take that away from somebody. And boy, home cooked cookies are going to go over the bottom ones any day. So we're still happy to have that. Oh, Camp Grandparents. Woo! What an exciting opportunity for you today. And grandparents, just use that term really, really loosely, okay? Age is not necessarily a factor in this, as long as you're older than the kids. So, we are looking for mature individuals who love God and children. You can be 30 to 100 years old and still come be a camp grandparent. The requirements are simple. I said that. Oh, yeah. You will need to fill out a volunteer application and have an online criminal record check done. And that is something that we just need to do now. Anybody that comes and is going to be interacting with the kids needs the criminal record check. We have to do it through online. You cannot go into your local RCMP and get one. That is not acceptable by our insurance company anymore. So that makes it a little bit tough because it's a little, some people have had difficulty doing online, but we will get it done. The job description is simple as well. Come and be present at camp and be around on the grounds connecting with campers as you are able. Build friendships and connections while showering the kids with the love of Christ. This will also help us have another set of eyes just out watching. We are not allowed to leave kids alone, unsupervised at all at camp. If you've been at camp for any length of time, you know how difficult that can be. It's a huge challenge, and if we could lose our accreditation if we are leaving kids unattended. So we've had to adjust how we do staff meetings, how we do so many things, which is a challenge, but we're navigating it still as we try to figure out how we can do this. And even having other people, adults on around the campground that are watching, maybe by the basketball court and just visiting. And what I found is when it doesn't matter, you might think, well, these kids won't know me and they won't want to talk to me. But they do. They do. Because if you show any interest in them, many of them they hunger for that. They hunger for questions. Oh, you're interested in what I do? Well, I play sports. You are going to listen to sports stories for the next hour. You might even get to watch them for their baseball, whatever. They are hungry for attention. And I will reiterate that as I tell you a couple of stories in a bit. So I've already got my official one grandparent has applied. And I have somebody who said, I can't be a camp grandparent, but I can be a camp mom. And I said, absolutely. She's got a newborn baby and she's interested in coming out to camp. And I mean, she's a camp person, and he said, well, even if you've got to talk to the staff, I can go do something, And she was told she'll interject herself. So there's, you can pull out a camp, or you can, hang out with camp. And then when it gets too noisy and you need a nap, we'll crawl into your camp. And get free food for a week. Meals prepared. No takers yet. We are partnering with Athletes in Action for our basketball camp. We normally have it as a sports camp, and this year we're going to run it strictly as a basketball camp. And that's the sport of choice for 99% of our campers. So I'm excited about that. Athletes in Action, I connected with them a couple of years at one of Miller's camp days. And we kind of tossed around the idea, and then we went for it this year. Now they'll bring out 1 or 2 instructors, and they will run the whole day camp. Like we'll be at the gym from 9 till 4, and they will run that whole entire thing. And I will have staff that will also be there, but they don't have to do the instructing part. And for years I had sports people. Now I don't. I don't have those kids anymore. So now they'll be able to do that instructing. We'll take over and we'll still do our rest of our camp. We're still going to tell them about Jesus, and we're going to still do their Bible studies. Chapel might look a little different, but it's a neat thing, because Athletes in Action, I went to an Athletes in Action basketball camp when I was a teen in high school, and I just never forgot that experience. And so when we did basketball camp and sports camp, I modeled it after what I remember that being like. And so I'm very excited about this, and again, we'll still need some staff to help with that. Our alumni project, we actually just posted it not that too long ago. There's 9 Square in the Air. It's a game. Right now, Gaga Pit is the game at camp, and it's a dust bowl. As the kids rub the grass right off the lawn, and it turns into grass or mud depending on the weather. But that occupies most of the kids' every spare moment that they have. This is another one that a few of the kids have been asking for. It's very popular. If you ever played Foursquare as a kid on the ground, this is taking it up a level and just changing it up a bit. But it's just something that we decided to make as an alumni project. And then we did it. We succeeded. Went above. Not succeeded. Exceeded, thank you. The amount that we had asked for, and the other thing that I grew up on was stilts. My dad made stilts, and we spent hours and hours on those. So I'm going to pick up a few pair. Don't worry, they're not too far off the ground. We won't end up with any broken limbs or anything like that. But it's just everything that the kids can do and conquer even, right? It's a skill, and challenge each other on. It just adds to the overall enjoyment of camp, especially when there is that free time. The kids run to those things more than even the basketball court for some of them, especially the younger ones. Our theme this summer, if you haven't seen it, is Take Aim. And I think if you look over all the themes that I've initiated over the years, they all pretty much mean the same thing. Focus on Jesus, be committed to Christ, follow Him, serve Him, and yet we just throw a different name and a different spin on it. But as I talk to kids and youth, I feel like a lot don't have any purpose. And I'm not meaning, I'm going to be a doctor, lawyer, and I've got my 20-year plan made out, I don't mean that. I just mean I'm just living for today without any thought of the future. And it's hard to direct kids and encourage them that following the Lord is the number one best decision you could ever make in your life. To make that choice, but then to do things that precipitate that help you grow in the Lord, and you're focused. I got my eyes on the prize. And so as we challenge the kids this summer to know where you're going and what you want, and to realize that if you're going after this stuff, but you're not following Jesus, this stuff means nothing. It's nothing. And I played sports, that was my thing. They ended when I ended when I got out of Bible school. My sports career was over. But I put a lot of time and energy into it. I don't think that's bad. I don't think those things are bad. But as long as they're not our only goal, and we can combine that, I'm going to love Jesus and serve Jesus and play for Jesus. That idea. So as we, the verse, it comes out of 2 Corinthians chapter 5. So we make it our aim to please Him, whether we are at home, in the body, or away from it. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the things done well in the body, whether good or bad. Please pray as we seek to ignite a passion within the hearts of kids to aim to please Jesus. We live in a very self-centered world, about me. And to change that focus it takes a life-changing, life-altering encounter with the living God to do that in the heart of a child. And so we need to pray that we would have soft hearts at camp, that the Holy Spirit can get in and just ignite that passion to serve God. So, I'm not sharing anything revolutionary that you go, wow, I never thought of that. But it's where my heart is right now. And a lot of what we say often comes through our own lives, right? And our own experiences. Can a story change your life? Well, you could go, I don't know, but I know you all know the answer. Of course it can. And we do know our lives were changed by God's story. The Word of God is a collection of stories. Stories of people we have laughed with, cried with, identified with, cheered for, or been inspired by. And I just start thinking of different names as I say those things, and counts in the Bible, things that if I'm going through something, where do I go? I'm going to go back to that story, back to that person, because they are not extraordinary people. They were regular people that God used, and that's what I love about the Bible. It's not anything, that we would put somebody on a pedestal. They just had struggles like us. And so, the Bible, as we read it, God uses that. And those encounters that He had and how He had the people that He used, those stories change us. They work in our heart to bring about the changes God wants. You have probably heroes of the faith, whether they're in the Bible or they're not in the Bible. There's a lot more that I think about that were heroes of my faith as I grew up and I just admired and clung to their stories of hope and perseverance. And there's something in their life story that reached into the core of our being and ignited something within us. And God uses that. He uses each other's stories. We know that, wrong button. Whoops, sorry. Here's where the technical challenges come in. We know that camp is not buildings, programs, statistics, or even the land that it rests upon. Camp is truly defined by the lives that are touched by camp. Without people, whether it be campers, staff, or volunteers, the camp would be void of eternal value. So today I want to share with you 4 stories, what time is it, Barb? How are we doing?
You're good.
Okay. There's somewhere, the 4 stories that I wanted to share, there are people who've been impacted in some way by camp. And in doing so, I pray that it would that you would be impacted by their stories in a way that would make you ask, what can I do to help impact others for Christ? And I'm not just meaning in camp, because if I just said I only have to impact people at camp, I'd be missing the mark. My aim would be way off. I mean, if I'm in a grocery store, if I'm anywhere, I need to be impacting others with the love of Christ. So I do believe that we never truly know the impact we have on someone, personally. And I also believe that we often don't know what someone else is going through. Whoops. That's probably what I did. Oh man, I'm really... I think there's a little delay, then I panic. Okay, there we go. There. As I go, I'm going to tell a couple stories, then I'm going to flip it, just because it's faces. It's faces of people at camp. And each one has a story. And sometimes the story is not anything we ever know anything about. And when I reached out to some individuals that I knew had been impacted by camp, I even learned things that I didn't know before. But one, she actually, this was a few years ago, but she wrote and told me as I asked her to share her story. She said, apart from camp, I had no Christian influence. Each year, growing up, I spent 1 week at camp, followed by 51 weeks surrounded by secularism. After each week at camp, I couldn't wait until next summer when I could again worship God and make wonderful friends. One year, I came home full of enthusiasm for God. My father made an offhanded comment about how I always come back excited about God, and 2 weeks later, I'm back to my normal self. That comment stung. I knew I believed God was real, but I had no one to disciple me when I wasn't at camp. As a result, I would quickly resume my regular old life. When I was 15, we moved from our small town in the middle of nowhere to Yorkville. I had a new home and a new school. The same summer was my first experience with death when my grandpa passed away from cancer, and 2 weeks later, my uncle unexpectedly passed away. This was when things started to change, and my relationship with God became something more than 1 week of Bible camp each year. I felt so alone and broken. When I went to camp that summer, once again, God's love for me shone so brightly. I knew I needed him, and I knew he could fill the emptiness inside of me. I realized, too, that accepting God meant more than just one-time prayer. It meant I had to change my life. I still wasn't discipled throughout the years, so progress was very slow. But I began to pray and read my Bible every day. It may have been only 1 or 2 verses at a time, and to be honest, my biblical literacy was so small that I usually had no idea what I was reading. But God is so faithful, and he uses our little baby steps to bring growth in our lives. The next summer was my first encounter with Ketchup. It was smaller than my previous Bible camp, but so very good. The small group of teen campers meant we could build really good relationships. Most of the other teams knew each other already, but they welcomed me into their circle with open arms. Throughout the winter months, I would see my new friends at Raise the Roof, a monthly youth worship night, and I was finally old enough to drag myself to one of the youth groups in Yorkton. For the first time, I had little bits of discipleship, communal worship, and fellowship sprinkled throughout the entire year. The next summer, I was accepted as staff at Ketchen, and from then on, I spent as many weeks as I could at camp each summer. Those weeks of staff meetings, serving together, chapels, and worship were so integral in my walk with God. They drew me deeper and gave me a thirst for more. It is because of those weeks that I understand more and more that God didn't just want a few minutes before bed of reading random verses. He didn't just want Sunday morning. He wanted all of me. Every minute, every day. One year we sang a song with the lyrics, "I will go, Lord, send me." That became a cry of my heart and a prayer of dedication to the Lord. I wanted God's will for my life, not my own. I am now a homeschool mom of 4 beautiful children, ages 1 to 8. I get the privilege of telling them about God every day. My oldest 2 children have expressed a love for God and have a far deeper understanding of who He is and His Word than I did until I spent several years at Bible college. In my spare time, I am a missionary with NCEM. My husband and I are part of a small team working to open Keewatin Discipleship Center, a Bible school geared towards the specific need of First Nation believers. God wanted me for His own and to use me for His glory. He used Bible camp to call me out of a secular family, and He placed me into His family. I will forever be grateful for what camp did for me. If any of you remember Peggy, that was her camp name, and her given name is Justine. And this blesses my heart to see what God has done in her life. And Keewatin Discipleship Center, I have 2 brothers who are First Nation, and one of them actually spent a semester at Keewatin years ago when it was open. So I thought that was kind of neat that they ended up there. The next one came from just somebody who I've got a very close relationship with. Over the years, God had placed her at camp, and she doesn't say much. If you read between the lines, she was in a bad place. And we don't know, we see kids come from good, solid, what we believe Christian homes, and yet the hurt and turmoil that they carry can be so overwhelming. And she wrote, "Camp for me was not just a fun place to spend my summers. It was my safe place, a place where I felt like I could truly be me. I remember counting down the days until I could escape my current reality and just breathe. Camp is where I started my journey, going from years of pent-up anger and frustration towards God for not changing my situation, to thanking Him for the opportunity to walk alongside others and truly being able to say, I've been there, I get it, here is how God pulled me through." She's a wonderful mom now, and a joy to watch her as the Lord's worked in her life and brought healing. A young man that never was on staff but was a camper, and I just saw him a year ago at a function where we were promoting camp, and I met his mom and I said, "Oh, is Drew here?" And I said, "I haven't seen him for so long. I'll tell him you're here." And he came over to the table with his little girl and then his wife, and I said, "Drew," and I came around the table, I said, "Can I give you a hug?" "Absolutely." And we just hugged. and he was never one that showed great interest in spiritual matters. But we're praying. He wants to send his little girl to camp because of what it meant to him. And he said, "I would say spending a week at Bible camp each summer was a really formative experience for me. I learned to be independent being away from my parents and having to navigate things on my own. I also became much less shy, making friends from other towns that I would see again in the future. The cabin and group leaders became positive role models in my life, and I still talk to some of them today. I made lifelong friends, and it was a nice break from games and the internet. Don't usually hear kids say that. I love it. Which really helped me grow my social skills. Everyone there was just so happy to be there, and that positive atmosphere was contagious. Seeds were planted in that young man's life, and enough that he wants to send his child to camp. And I still pray for them. Both him and his brother would come to camp, and both of them still have connections through staff. And one was actually working with a former staff member that I know that's heavily involved in the camp. And so those connections, I just think that's neat how God has circled people around and back into the camp family, and to still continue to have that influence. And I am just so incredibly in awe of how God works amongst his people. And I always, I just say we just need to be willing. We need to be willing and available. And God will bring the people to us as well. So that was just, Drew's just a special kid to me. I'm just going to show you some more faces. Now I had just, through Facebook and Messenger can be so bad, right? They can just be time consuming, waste of time, anything, like whatever you want to say. But it's also a way to connect with certain people. I spent a couple of years in Africa. All the girls that I had in my group in Africa at the International Boarding School, we connected through Facebook. And that was like so cool that, get those relationships back going. Camp is the same way. And there's one girl that she was there several years ago, and we started to message. And I didn't know all of her story. I spent some time discipling her and another girl. I'd go to Kenora and meet with them at lunchtime, take them out for subs and stuff like that, and try and build that connection, keep that connection going with them. And then all of a sudden she just kind of fell off the radar a little bit. And she contacted me and started to ask about camp. And we had this conversation, and I asked her for permission to share it. And so she had been at camp as a camper, and then she stayed on as crew. If you know what the crew is, they just get to help out at camp whatever's needed. So whether it's trees have come down, whether it's certain things, bushes need to be cut back, dishes need to be done, just that kind of stuff. I don't call it a work crew because I think it's a ministry. They're behind the scenes, but they're just as important as cabin leaders. And she did that. So she was apologizing to me for, she said mean things to me, and then went on to say the following, and that's what I want to share with you. And I was like, I don't remember her saying mean things to me, but obviously we have a different interpretation. But she says, and this one, this to me is a story that probably represents more campers than I would want to tell you about, that you would even want to imagine that this is their life. And so this is the one that goes deep into my heart. I was so angry at the world for what I was going through. I wanted to find any excuse in the world to say God didn't exist because I felt unseen. I felt confused. Why would I go through all this trauma and pain by someone who's supposed to love me? I couldn't fathom how someone who was supposed to be almighty and all-knowing would let a kid go through everything I did. But that's no excuse to lash out at people and be cruel. You did a lot for me at the worst of my times in my life. Camp was my safe haven every summer. Somewhere I could go to escape my home and the abuse there. God was helping me. I just didn't see it. Camp was home for me every summer, a place I could go and be myself, escape the horrors at home for a short period. So thank you for all you've done to help me and support me. Some days I wonder where I'd be, or even if I'd still be alive if I didn't have you and camp and everyone there. And it's not just me, it was the camp. I'm not. When I was at camp, I tried to be happy because I didn't want people to see me hurting. I was so scared to let people know I was unsafe and scared. But I also didn't want people to know. If I could convince people I was happy, maybe I could convince myself I was too. But making others laugh and smile and making friends helped me feel okay and happy. 2 summers I asked to stay longer at camp because it got worse at home. One of those years in the fall, my stepdad pinned me against the wall by my throat and might have killed me if my grandma hadn't chased him off with a broom. My librarian found out and spoke with the school counselor, and they said, it's gone on too long and too far, so they brought in CPS. But my grandma didn't tell them the truth. They didn't want me at my mom's because they didn't know if I'd die by them or myself because I'd gotten so depressed. I was sent to my dad's and it wasn't any better, but I eventually fixed things with my dad. I tried having a relationship with my mom, but that's gone now. So I'm fixing my life as best I can, and I'm getting my life back on track. I realized how much I missed camp. I know I'm still figuring life out and where I stand, but I needed camp. I needed to meet everyone. I regret pushing everyone away, but I also know why I did it, and I think I needed the space to process a lot. The trauma affected my brain. It's been a lot of growing, counseling, and trying different medications. But camp was home. It was my safe haven. I knew I belonged and was wanted somewhere. I knew I could be somewhere and meet people who are like-minded and accept me for who I am. I felt safe at camp. Without camp, I'm unsure where I'd be or if I'd even be alive. I know my last summer there, I was mentally done and was close to ending my life a few times, but camp kept me going. Camp gave me hope. What I learned at camp has been an essential part of who I am today. Everyone came to camp with their own story and experiences and knowledge and wisdom. So many people taught me many life lessons about faith and beliefs and integral things within who I could be as a person. Please pray for her. Please pray for her. She just needs Jesus, completely, totally surrendering her life. And but if she can get surrounded back with camp people, and so neat, she moved to a different province and now has come back, so she's back also in our circle of camp people. So I think what a neat, and the fact that she even contacted me was quite incredible. So I might even be able to get her out and help a little bit at camp, just on the fringes, and just have her be back in that atmosphere and fellowship with everyone.
Thank you, Elaine.
So what can we do? We can care for one another, regardless of whether it's at camp or whether it's across the road here. Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And John 15:12, my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Easy to read, hard to do, right? So, is there a place for you at camp where you can care for others? Serving at camp is not just about duty and responsibilities. It's also about having a listening ear, being caring and compassionate, and showing someone that they matter and are seen and heard. Whether you are a camp grandparent, cabin leader, kitchen worker, or in some other support role, you can have a profound impact on a camper's life. Colossians 3:12, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Caring deeply for others costs us. It's an emotional investment. It's putting aside our wants and desires, giving up some freedom, giving and maybe not getting anything in return. However deep the cost is to us, it's nothing compared to the cost Jesus paid when in his great love for us, he suffered and died for us. Short little story. When I was working in Esterhazy as a medic, I worked night shifts, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. One Easter Sunday, I kind of felt like I should go to church. Not that I was just an Easter and Christmas Christian, but working nights puts you in a whole different mind frame. But it was Easter, and I thought maybe I should go. And I was lamenting back and forth whether I should go or not. And I don't know if the Lord ever speaks into your brain. But what came to me was so clear and powerful. And he said, I felt the Lord was just saying to me, I died for you. The least you can do is get up for me. Guess where I was on Sunday morning? But in reality, I'm going to lose a little sleep. It's going to be inconvenienced. Jesus died for me. He deserves my attention and my participation. So I was in church. Billy Graham, we'll end off with the Billy Graham quote. The evangelistic harvest is always urgent. The destiny of men and of nations is always being decided. Every generation is strategic. We are not responsible for the past generation, and we cannot bear the full responsibility for the next generation. But we do have our generation. God will hold us responsible as to how well we fulfill our responsibilities to this age and take advantage of our opportunities.